First strike. The United Earth ship Thunderchild glided through the darkness of space like a predator on patrol. Her sleek, angular hull bristled with railgun batteries and missile silos, the culmination of humanity's defensive capabilities in the year 2157. Commander Maya Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that dominated the command center. "Status report," she ordered, her voice carrying the weight of a decade in Earth's unified space forces. Lieutenant Raj Patel responded immediately. "All systems nominal, Commander. We're maintaining standard orbit around Europa Station. Defense grid is online and fully operational." Maya nodded, satisfied but unable to shake the sensation of unease that had plagued her since they'd picked up the anomalous readings 3 days ago. Something was coming. The Thunderchild, Earth's newest and most advanced battleship, had been dispatched to investigate, a fact that reflected how seriously High Command was taking the situation. "Any update on those gravitational distortions?" she asked, turning to the science station. Dr. Eliza Wong, the ship's lead physicist, frowned at her instruments. "Still growing in intensity, Commander. Whatever's causing them is massive and moving directly toward the outer colonies. At current trajectory, they'll reach Europa within 18 hours. Maya studied the readouts. Earth had been reaching into space for centuries, establishing colonies on Mars, mining operations throughout the asteroid belt, and research outposts on the moons of the gas giants. Yet, in all that time, humanity had found no evidence of intelligent alien life. Until now. "All senior officers, briefing room in 10 minutes, Maya ordered, turning from the display. "And get me a direct line to Admiral Zhao at High Command." The briefing room held an atmosphere of tense anticipation as Maya addressed her team. Captain James Rivera, her experienced XO, sat with arms crossed, skepticism evident in his weathered features. Chief Engineer Mako Tanaka fidgeted with a stylus, his brilliant mind already working through potential scenarios. Security Chief Natalia Volkov maintained a stoic expression, but her fingers tapped a rhythmic pattern on the table. "The anomaly is no natural phenomenon," Maya began, displaying the sensor data. "It bears all the hallmarks of artificial warp technology, far more advanced than our prototype systems. We're looking at first contact, people." A murmur ran through the room. Humanity had long prepared for this moment, establishing protocols and training specialists. But the reality of it here now sent a collective shiver through the crew. "Are they responding to our transmission attempts?" Rivera asked. Maya shook her head. "No response on any channel or frequency. But they've altered course twice, demonstrating purposeful navigation directly toward our position. High Command has issued a yellow alert throughout the Sol system." "Peaceful or hostile?" Volkov asked bluntly, cutting to the heart of everyone's concern. "Unknown," Maya admitted, "but we're the first line of defense if it's the latter. I need all departments at maximum readiness." The next 12 hours passed in a flurry of preparation. Weapons systems were checked and rechecked. Shield generators hummed at standby capacity. Every available sensor was focused on the approaching anomaly, which had resolved into a fleet of spacecraft unlike anything humanity had ever constructed. "My God," Dr. Wong whispered as the alien vessels finally came into visual range. "There must be hundreds of them." The alien ships moved with impossible precision, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent material that seemed to change color as they approached. Leading the armada was a massive vessel that dwarfed the Thunderchild by at least 5 times, surrounded by smaller craft that flowed around it like remora around a shark. "Final attempt at communication," Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "All languages, all frequencies. Make it clear we're willing to establish peaceful contact." For 5 tense minutes, the Thunderchild broadcast humanity's greeting to the stars. The message had been carefully crafted decades ago by linguists, mathematicians, and diplomats, a universal offering of peace encoded with basic scientific principles that any advanced civilization should understand. The response came not in words, but in energy. A blinding beam of coherent particles lanced out from the lead alien vessel, striking a small research outpost on Europa's surface. The station, home to 47 scientists and engineers, vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. Alarms blared across the Thunderchild's bridge. Maya's training took over instantly. Red alert. Defensive positions. Get those shields up now. The alien fleet accelerated, spreading out into an attack formation that demonstrated frightening tactical sophistication. A barrage of energy weapons erupted toward the Thunderchild and the remaining Europan installations. Return fire, Maya ordered. All batteries. Target the smaller vessels first. The Thunderchild's railguns roared to life, accelerating tungsten projectiles to a fraction of light speed. The first volley struck 3 alien ships, which erupted in silent explosions. But for each vessel destroyed, 5 more took its place, their weapons tearing into the human defenses. Shields at 60%. Patel shouted over the din of battle stations. We can't withstand this level of firepower for long, Commander. Maya gripped the command chair as the ship shuddered under another impact. Status of Europa Station. Evacuating civilians to the emergency bunkers, Rivera reported grimly. But the orbital platforms are already gone. Wear it, Commander. The realization settled heavily on Maya's shoulders. The Thunderchild stood alone between an overwhelming alien force and the 12,000 colonists on Europa. Retreat wasn't an option. The aliens' superior speed would overtake them long before they reached Mars, let alone Earth. They had to find a way to slow the enemy advance, to buy time for the rest of humanity to prepare. Tanaka, she called to her engineer. What are you seeing in their attack patterns? The engineer had been analyzing the sensor data even as the battle raged. They're coordinated, too coordinated. I think they're using some kind of centralized command and control system. The signals are emanating from the mothership. Maya studied the tactical display, watching as the alien vessels moved with uncanny synchronization. Like a hive mind. Possibly, Dr. Wong interjected. But more importantly, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations whenever they fire their main weapons. Their systems are heavily shielded against radiation and electromagnetic interference, but not against kinetic impacts. Tanaka finished, a spark of inspiration in his eyes. That's why our railguns are effective when they hit, but their shields are stopping our energy weapons completely. Another blast rocked the ship. Shields at 38%, Paddle reported, his voice tight with strain. Maya's mind raced through the possibilities. High Command wouldn't be able to send reinforcements for days. By then, Europa would be lost, and the alien fleet would be pushing deeper into the solar system. They needed a decisive action now. Dr. Wong, those energy fluctuations, could we use them somehow? Create a feedback loop or disruption? The physicist hesitated. Possibly. If we could get close enough to the mothership to analyze the frequencies directly. But that would mean getting past their entire defensive screen. Maya finished. Captain Rivera, how many nuclear warheads do we have in the arsenal? Rivera's eyes widened slightly. 12 Nove-class tactical warheads. But Commander, at this range, the radiation backwash would. Not if we use them as a diversion. Maya interrupted, a desperate plan forming. Tanaka, the prototype EM pulse generator you've been working on, is it operational? The engineer straightened. It's untested beyond simulation, but the theory is solid. A concentrated electromagnetic pulse, modified to match their energy signatures, could temporarily disrupt their communications, but we'd need to be practically on top of the mothership. And we'd have one shot before they adapt, Volkov added. Maya nodded grimly. Then we better make it count. For the next 20 minutes, as the battle raged around them, and Europa's defensive platforms fell one by one, the crew of the Thunderchild worked feverishly to implement Maya's desperate gambit. The nuclear warheads were loaded into stealth delivery vehicles, programmed to detonate simultaneously across the alien formation. Meanwhile, Tanaka and his engineering team reconfigured the ship's main power core to channel everything into a single massive electromagnetic pulse. All preparations complete, Rivera reported. But, Commander, this is essentially a suicide run. Maya met his gaze steadily. I know, James. That's why I'm only taking volunteers for the final approach. The rest of the crew will evacuate in the emergency pods. She addressed the entire bridge. I won't order anyone to stay. A moment of silence fell, broken by Volkov's firm voice. I'm staying, Commander. As am I, Tanaka added without hesitation. One by one, each bridge officer affirmed their commitment to the mission. Maya felt a swell of pride that threatened to overwhelm her composure. This was humanity at its finest, faced with extinction. They chose to stand and fight, not for glory, but for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Evacuation of non-essential personnel complete, Rivera confirmed. Nuclear diversion, ready on your mark. Maya took a deep breath, committing fully to the course ahead. Launch the warheads. Prepare for maximum acceleration on my mark. The nuclear devices streaked away from the Thunderchild, their stealth systems keeping them invisible until the last possible moment. When they detonated, the vacuum of space was illuminated by 12 miniature suns, their combined energy creating a momentary gap in the alien formation. Now, Maya commanded, full power to engines. Get us to that mothership. The Thunderchild surged forward, its overtaxed engines screaming as it hurtled toward the heart of the alien fleet. Enemy vessels, momentarily disoriented by the nuclear detonations, scrambled to intercept, but the human battleship had already built too much momentum. Shields failing, Patel shouted as energy beams lashed the hull. Structural integrity compromised on decks 4 through 7. Hold course, Maya ordered, gripping her chair as the ship shuddered violently around her. Distance to target, 2,000 kilometers in closing, Rivera reported. We'll be in optimal range in 30 seconds. The alien mothership loomed ever larger on the view screen, its massive weapons turning to focus on the approaching human vessel. The ship rocked under a direct hit, and emergency lighting bathed the bridge in crimson. Engineering to bridge, Tanaka's voice came through with static interference. The pulse generator is charged, but the targeting systems are damaged. We'll need to get closer, much closer. Maya made her decision instantly. Divert all remaining power to engines and the pulse generator. We're going to ram them. The Thunderchild, Earth's pride and most advanced warship, accelerated on a collision course with the heart of the alien command vessel. Across the bridge, the crew worked with grim determination, knowing these were likely their final moments. Impact in 10 seconds, Rivera counted down. 9, 8. Maya closed her eyes briefly. For Earth, she whispered. 3, 2, 1. Turning the tide. The collision never came. Instead, at the last possible moment, Maya shouted, all stop. Fire the pulse. The Thunderchild's engines cut out abruptly, inertia carrying the vessel to within mere kilometers of the alien mothership's hull. Then, with a power drain that plunged the entire ship into darkness for 3 critical seconds, the electromagnetic pulse generator fired. There was no visible beam, no dramatic explosion. Just a wave of concentrated electromagnetic energy, precisely calibrated to the alien fleet's communication frequency. It washed over the mothership like an invisible tide. For one breathless moment, nothing happened. Then, chaos erupted among the alien vessels. The smaller craft, previously moving with perfect coordination, began to drift aimlessly or collide with one another. The mothership's weapon systems flickered and died. It worked, Tanaka exclaimed, his voice hoarse with disbelief. Their command network is down. Maya didn't waste a second. All power to weapons. Target their propulsion systems and fire everything we have. The Thunderchild's remaining railguns and missile batteries unleashed hell upon the suddenly vulnerable alien mothership. Without its defensive coordination, the massive vessel's shields failed under the barrage. Explosions blossomed across its hull as critical systems were breached. The smaller vessels are regaining some function, Volkov reported tensely. They're attempting to reorganize. Maya had expected this. The pulse would only buy them minutes at most. Focus all fire on the mothership's central section. Dr. Wong identified an unusual energy concentration there. It might be their primary power core. The Thunderchild, despite its crippled state, continued its relentless assault. Tungsten slugs tore through alien armor plating at relativistic speeds. Conventional warheads found their marks with deadly precision. The bridge crew worked frantically, redirecting fire as targets presented themselves. "Commander," Dr. Wong called out suddenly, "I'm detecting a massive energy buildup in the mothership. It's either preparing a final weapon discharge or their power core is going critical." Tanaka finished grimly. "We need to put distance between us now." "Engines are at 20% at best," Rivera warned. "We won't get far." Maya made another split-second decision. Launch all remaining missiles at the other vessels, then divert every ounce of power to the engines and the rear shields. Get us behind Europa's moon as fast as possible. The Thunderchild's final missile salvo scattered the alien fleet further as the human vessel limped away from the mothership, which was now visibly breaking apart. Arcs of strange energy coursed across its disintegrating hull. "Brace for impact," Maya shouted as they desperately accelerated away from the impending catastrophe. The alien mothership's destruction exceeded all expectations. It didn't merely explode. It collapsed in on itself before releasing a shockwave of energy that expanded outward with devastating force. The wave caught the Thunderchild, despite its head start, overwhelming the remaining shields and tearing through the already damaged hull. Maya was thrown from her command chair as systems exploded around her. Through a haze of smoke and emergency alarms, she heard Rivera shouting damage reports, but the words seemed distant and unimportant as darkness claimed her consciousness. When Maya awoke in the medical bay hours later, her first question was immediate. Status of the alien fleet. Dr. Karina Mendez, the ship's chief medical officer, replied with uncharacteristic wonder in her voice. Destroyed or retreated. When the mothership went, it took out most of their remaining vessels in the blast radius. The rest jumped away so fast our sensors barely tracked them. Maya tried to sit up, wincing at the pain from her fractured ribs. Europa Station. The colonists. Safe, came Rivera's voice as he entered the bay, his arm in a sling and a nasty gash across his forehead. The aliens never got past us, Commander. You did it. No, Maya thought. We did it. Aloud, she asked. The Thunderchild. Rivera's expression sobered. Bad, but salvageable. We lost 37 crew members. Engineering and the lower decks took the worst of it. We're running on auxiliary power, and Tanaka says the main reactor is offline permanently. Europe is sending recovery vessels now. Maya nodded solemnly, feeling the weight of those losses. 37 lives against the 12,000 on Europa and the billions back on Earth. The cold mathematics of command offered little comfort for the names and faces she would never forget. We've been in constant communication with High Command, Rivera continued. They're mobilizing everything we have. The Mars Defense Fleet is already en route, and they're accelerating production of new vessels based on what we learned about the aliens' weaknesses. And what exactly did we learn? Maya asked, accepting a tablet from Rivera. The data painted a fascinating picture. The aliens, dubbed the Vorath Collective, based on fragments of intercepted communications, had technology far beyond humanity's in most respects. Their faster-than-light capabilities, energy weapons, and shield systems outclassed Earth's best efforts by centuries. Yet they had proven vulnerable in unexpected ways. Their centralized command structure, while allowing for perfect coordination, created a critical weakness when disrupted. Their shields, designed to repel energy attacks, were less effective against kinetic weapons like railguns. Most intriguingly, they seemed to have no concept of electronic warfare, or countermeasures against electromagnetic pulse technology. They never expected it, Tanaka explained when he visited Maya later, his arm in a cast, but his eyes bright with excitement. From what we can tell, the Vorath abandoned physical projectile weapons and basic electronic systems millennia ago. Our primitive technology was completely outside their defensive doctrine, like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Maya mused, only to discover your opponent has no concept of bladed weapons. Exactly. Their entire tactical approach assumes enemies at their technological level. They were prepared for energy weapons, antimatter warheads, even rudimentary faster-than-light attacks. But good old-fashioned kinetic projectiles and electromagnetic disruption. Total blind spot. This revelation spread through Earth's military and scientific communities like wildfire in the days that followed. As the Thunderchild was towed back to the Mars shipyards for extensive repairs, humanity began preparing for the inevitable return of the Vorath. New defensive platforms were designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses Maya's crew had discovered. The railgun technology that had proven so effective was prioritized and enhanced. 2 weeks after the battle, Maya stood before the United Earth Security Council, still wearing a medical brace and leaning slightly on a cane. The chamber was filled with the most powerful leaders on the planet, all focused intently on her words. "Make no mistake," she concluded after detailing the encounter. "The Vorath will return, and in greater numbers. We bloodied their nose and sent them running, but we also reveal ourselves as a significant threat. Next time, they'll be prepared for our tactics." Admiral Zhao, Maya's direct superior, stepped forward, "which is why we're accelerating the Thunderchild refit program. Commander Chen, in recognition of your actions, you are hereby promoted to captain. Once the Thunderchild is rebuilt, incorporating the lessons from this encounter, she'll be yours to command again, as the flagship of Earth's new defense fleet." Maya accepted the promotion with a solemn nod, understanding the immense responsibility it represented. The battle at Europa had changed everything. Humanity, long divided by petty differences, now faced an existential threat that demanded unity. In the months that followed, as the Thunderchild was reborn from the ashes of its near destruction, Maya often found herself standing at the observation deck of the Mars shipyards, watching the workers swarming over the vessel's reconstructed hull. The ship would be stronger, faster, and infinitely more lethal, a testament to humanity's remarkable ability to adapt and overcome. Dr. Wong joined her there one evening, as the Earth rose over the Martian horizon, a beautiful blue marble against the blackness of space. "Do you think we'll be ready when they come back?" she asked quietly. Maya considered the question carefully. The Vorath possessed technology and resources that humanity could barely comprehend. By all logical measures, Earth should have no chance against such an advanced civilization. Yet logic failed to account for the human spirit. The same determination that had driven a single damaged battleship to take on an alien armada, the ingenuity that found weaknesses where none should exist, the courage that chose to stand against impossible odds rather than surrender to fate. "Ready or not," Maya replied, her gaze fixed on the distant world they had all sworn to protect. "They'll find that humanity doesn't go quietly. And that might be the biggest surprise of all." As if in answer to her words, the Thunderchild's newly installed systems hummed to life, lights cascading across its hull as the engineers ran power tests. In the gathering dusk of the Martian evening, the battleship seemed to glow with purpose, a beacon of humanity's defiance against the darkness beyond the stars. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and they would make the Vorath regret ever finding Earth.